how did you go from so much polyamory, right, that so many of us followed you with, and enough kind of lack of full fuck yes that you didn't even know that this level existed? Like, did you do work? Did you shift? Or did it just come into your life and you were like, okay, yes. Like, how did that work for you?
There was an evolution of myself that was happening. And I think part of some aspect of me was that there was a stallion that just needed to run.
Yeah.
And I needed to learn about myself and learn about who I was by how I was reflected in the many faces of many goddesses.
Yeah.
And I really needed that for a long time, And so while I don't think any of the people that I was with was a Vylana, was the right person, but also I wasn't in that exact right phase.
Yeah.
Like I was still learning myself reflected in many different mirrors.
Yeah.
And learning about women in many different ways and myself in many different ways. So that season had to come to fruition. Now, I didn't think that there ever was a Vylana. I mean, again, I had an instinct as soon as I met her that Vylana could be the Vylana.
Yeah.
But but I wasn't sure. So I was actually fairly content to kind of, how Frankenstein was a amalgam of many different beings.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to Frankenstein monster together my Vylana with many different partners.
Yeah.
This one will be amazing at this. This one I'll go to journeys with. This one I'll go to dance parties with. This one will have intense erotic charge with this. And I was like, this is probably going to be my way. And I'd resigned myself to that.
Yeah.
Although there was this one flickering question mark, like in Mario World, there's like a question mark over the thing and you just got to bump your head into it to see what it is. And that was Vylana. Because as soon as I met her, there was just something in my knowing that was like, I don't know about this one. This one seems like an anomaly to my whole worldview.
Yeah.
So the question that's interesting is if I would have met the Vylana earlier, before the stallion had run, before I had seen myself reflected in so many different million faces of the goddess, would I have been ready and would she have been ready? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It could have actually imploded.
Yeah.
We could have actually gotten so messy and so lost in the tragic, we might not have made it to the post-tragic. So timing, not only person, but timing played a really important role and should not be underestimated, the importance of the timing of us coming together. And it was an older timeline for me. I was 39, when that timeline was really right. And Vylana, what? You were 33?
32.
32.
Yeah.
So that timeline was, it took a while to ripen for us to get to the level where we could withstand the waves and not break. Like there's never been one moment, because a previous pattern of mine when I wasn't sure is I would bounce. But in this relationship, I've never bounced. And, I look back at all those other relationships. I was like, man, like how could I have created this sense of safety when I was always 1 foot out the door? Oh, you're going to show me that side of thing. You're going to project this thing on me. Well, I'm fucking out.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
And then expect that the relationship was going to heal. Like, no way. Like that wasn't possible. So it was a combination of the right person at the right time. And then the full willingness to just do whatever it takes to make it work. And the desire to do that, not out of obligation, but because we want it.
Yeah. So the follow-on question that I was talking about, right? And this definitely intersects with my own questioning in my world and my interactions is like, is there space then to grow into each other? If you're not at that perfect timing, if you haven't done that level of work where it's just like, shoom, do you hold space in this sacred union framework for, like what if you did meet Vylana 6 years earlier and you were in and out and she was less integrated and had more projections and trauma? Like, is there a world in which you get there together? And can the full fuck yes emerge out of that? Or do we think that's always just hopeful thinking and staying in something? Because I think also Yeah, it begs the question of like, do you always just leave?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a full fuck yes. Or can you do work and reveal a full fuck
Such
yes?
a good question.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's coming up for me, and it's sort of, it's coming to me because of my own process of how I arrived to this in the first place, is I think that if you are doing the inner work to be like a truly sovereign being that has so much self-approval, self-love, acceptance, a connection to the depth of your desires, your needs, your boundaries. Like if you are that deeply intimate with yourself, your beacon of what is in resonance with you and what is not becomes very clear. And so I don't know that I can, because I haven't experienced that firsthand, I can't really say. I sense that because of how I know us, because I know both of our hearts, because I know how we both show up to communicate things. Like, I mean, there was a lot of messiness in the beginning. I mean, I was like still, sort of fracturing off my own collie expression that would get, rageful and a little eviscerating and, not
A little.
Like,
A little. As
wow.
my entrails were spread across the ground.
Totally.
A little.
Yeah. No, like that expression was also there. I had not transcended, and not necessarily that you need to. I learned how to work with it in different ways, but I do believe that because of what this is, because of our like connection and almost the weaving of the dharma of our souls, I do feel that we would have found our way. Because there's just something different. It's almost like and I don't know that it works this way, but it feels like a lock and key. There are particular codes and things that have opened for me in the presence of him, even when we've been through a lot of difficult stuff. And, had it been 6 years earlier, I would have missed the worst years of trauma of my life if we got together 6 years earlier, and we would have been different people then. But I personally do believe that we still would have ended up together. And I also entirely have always trusted the timing because there was a part of me, as he mentioned, in the period where we were very good friends, that wasn't willing to fully look at the possibility. Like I just completely shut it down for my own reasons. I felt it, kind of perk up in a number of instances and then just very quickly kind of closed it off again. And it was just, when I, because I had become so intimate with myself through all of the contrast of all the kinds of relationships that I didn't want, through all of the painful, I don't even need to go into those stories, and really, really found myself through the pain, through the darkness, through the contrast. And, coming into this, it just, I don't know, it just felt like when the door was open, it was because I was actually ready to show up to this in a way that would, be in the highest alignment for us both. And I feel like, he had also been doing that work prior to us being together, where we were in a place where it was like, I feel like so much love for life. And I would be stoked to have, the mirror of a beautiful relationship. And I'm also totally okay with being with me right now. So yeah, that's kind of my take on what I feel about it.
The way that I would try to explain it is to look at, there's a hardware match, right? And so the hardware match is important. It's not that the hardware match is necessary to match on all the hardware categories. So hardware categories would be, we both are athletic. We both like to do athletic things as part of our very nature. It's wired actually into us on a fundamental level. We're both dancers, erotic beings by our very nature. We both have a zest and passion for life in these ways. We both have a poet's heart in these different ways. And we're like, these things are like these big categories that we actually aligned on. And if I look back at past relationships, there was, some hardware hits and some hardware misses, but there wasn't ever a full hardware matchup. But I don't think that's actually fully necessary, right? In this case, to have a full hardware match where we both really like our bodies, our psyches really like light up at very similar things. That's really special to have that, because then you don't have to worry about any compromise on that level. So you talk about full fuck yes. You're like, all right, well, hardware, we're matched up perfectly.
Yeah.
In that way. So that was really beautiful. But I still think the same amount of passion of sacred union can happen, even if the hardware doesn't line up, if you're willing to use the software of all of the different techniques and technologies to go in and do the deeper work and actually successfully do the deeper work. I think about my partnership with actually both of our mutual best friends, Caitlin Howe. And Caitlin was my first fiance. And we didn't have a full hardware matchup. She's not so much of an athlete, but she's an amazing poet. So we really maxed out certain categories and we maxed out a lot of categories in that. And so hardware was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And we were willing to do work together. But there was parts of that were stuck for both of us, actually. And there was parts that were stuck in me. There was parts that were stuck in her. And we weren't actually willing or even capable or even knowledgeable enough to get to those other parts. So if we would have had the technology back then, I think we could have actually built our sacred union, Caitlin and I, together from that point. Like she's of that type of stuff that I think we could have done it. Now, this is the highest outcome that could have possibly been. But in this alternate parallel universe timeline, with a little bit more technology, with a little bit adjustments to the software, a few different mentors, a few different practices, a few different breakthroughs, I think we could have reached a similar powered sacred union, actually.
Yeah.